Now, with nodal analysis, the supernode is, you're going to encounter that when you have a voltage source in the circuit. So let's take this example. Let's say we have, leave some space on the top. I'm going to be adding stuff to it. That's 3 ohms. I'll make it a little bit bigger so it's not squishing everything together. Leave some room over this too. I'm going to add more stuff to it. There's a current source going this direction of -3 amps. Here we have a voltage source, minus to plus, 25 volts. Down here we have a 1 ohm. Down here we have a current source pointing in this direction of -8 amps. We have a resistor in this direction, 5 ohms. We have a current source coming this way, -25 amps. And we have a resistor on the top. I was about to put something else. That's my circuit. And I'm going to go through that and solve it. I want to find, we have how many nodes, by the way? Not counting the ground. This is the ground. How many nodes do we have?
3.
We have this node, that's V1. We have this node, that's V2. And we have this node, as of now, that's V3. You're going to see me in a few minutes. I'm going to treat the voltage source as supernode, but for now I'm going to pretend I don't see that. I don't like the way that circuit is drawn, and I never liked when they're messy like this. So I'm going to redraw that. Notice that current source, I'm going to make all of them straight lines and 90-degree angles and everything. It's -8 amps going to that node, so I'm going to leave it as 8 amps leaving that node. That's V1 here. There's the 3. There's the 1. 25. So this is V2 here. This is V3 here. And the 5 ohm between this and the ground. This is my ground right here. It runs all the way across. So here's that 5 ohms. I also have that current source. And it's pointing down and make it pointing up of the value of 25 amps. So V3 is really this end. That's what V3. This is V2 and that's V1. I also have a current source now going in the opposite direction, because I don't like the negative, the value of 3. And I got a resistor that goes all the way to here. And the value of that is 4. I kind of like it better this way, when everything is square and nice. Gives me more room to write stuff. Here's what's going to happen. Let's assign current. I3. No thinking about it. I1. I5. I4. What about through this one? I2. I didn't discuss Supernode yet, so I'm not even going to discuss it. Not yet. Give me a minute, then I'll explain that. Now, when you do that, what do we have? We have KCL at V1. What is going to that node? Based on the picture I drew it, some of the current going into the node should equal some of the current coming out of that node. And what is going to it? 0. And what's leaving? The 8 plus what? I3 plus what? 3 amps. Remember, this V1 is really all of this. That's V1. The 3 amp, and what else leaving? Is it I sub 4? So if you clean it now, you have 8 and 3, 11, move it to this side, negative 11 equals I sub 3 plus I sub 4. Can't do any more with it. KCL at V2. What is going to that node? I sub 3. What else? The 3 amps on the top. This and this go into it. What's leaving? This and this. So if we clean it, we have 3 equals what? I sub 1 plus I sub 2 minus I sub 3. Good. Box it in. KCL at V3. What is going to that node? I see 25. You see it right here? I see I sub 4 and I sub 2. And what's leaving? I sub 5. Clean it. 25 equals I sub 5 minus I sub 2 minus I sub 4. Again, we have 3 equations by how many unknowns? 5. We can't do it. Let's see if we can rewrite each current. What's I sub 1? I sub 1 is equal to what? V2. I sub 1 is V2 minus 0, the ground, divided by 1, which is V2, yes. Leave I sub 2 alone for now. Let's go I sub 3. Is this current? So it's what? V1 minus V2 divided by 3. It's going to the right, so it's this voltage minus that voltage over the resistor. What's I sub 4? V1 minus what?
V3.
V3 divided by 4. What's I sub 5? That's this one. V3 minus 0, the ground is 0 over 5, which is V3 over 5. And what is I sub 2? I said leave it alone. V1?
V2 minus V3.
V2 minus V3 divided by what?
Divided by nothing.
Can't divide by nothing.
Use Ohm's law.
You don't know what the resistor is.
There isn't.
So you really can't write I sub 2 in terms of V2 minus V3. So what's going to happen when you do your substitution? Let's go back to it and see what will happen. So I sub 2, I got to leave it as I sub 2. I can't write that in terms of the voltage. Okay, let's see. Take the first equation. Negative 11 equals I sub 3. What's I sub 3? V1 minus V2 divided by 3 plus I sub 4 V1 minus V3 over what? 4. Multiply everything by 12, that's the LCD. Is that negative 132? 4V1 minus what? 4V2 plus 3v1 minus 3v3. Negative 132 equals 7v1 minus 4v2 minus 3v3. Now let's take equation number 2, that's this one, and plug in these values into it. And see if I can shrink it. Maybe I can take these 3 equations by 5 unknowns to 3 equations by 3 unknowns. I can tell you the answer is no. But let's look and see. This is one of them. I got 1. Maybe I can get 2 more. Let's see. This one. 3 plus, what's I sub 1? Oh, 3 equals, not plus. 3 equals, what's I sub 1? Plus I sub 2. Uh-oh. It's I sub 2. Minus, what's I sub 3? V1 minus V2 over 3. Multiply everything by 3, you'll have what? 9 equals 3v2 3i sub 2 minus v1 plus v2. Clean it. 9 equals negative v1 plus 4v2 plus 3i sub 2. That's not good.
I'll figure it out.
Let's see. Let's look at the last equation. 25 equals I sub 5, which is what? V3 over 5. Minus what? I sub 2 minus I sub 4, which is what? V1 minus V3 over 4. LCD for that is 20. $500 equals 4v3 minus 20i sub 2 minus 5i sub 1, I mean v1, not I sub 1, v1 plus 5v3. Hmm. 500 equals negative 5v1 plus 9v3 minus 20i sub 2. So how many equations by how many unknowns? We had 3 equations by how many unknowns before? 3 by 5. Now we shrunk it or truncated down to what? 3 by how many unknowns? 4. We still can't do it. I need to solve for something else. I can solve for I sub 2. It still doesn't help me. I need one more equation.
Supernode.
Not yet. Look at this source here. The voltage on this end, V3, based on that, what this source is telling you, this voltage here is 25 more than this one. So V3 is what? V2 plus what? 25. So let's go back and plug it in into these 3 equations. Let me write these three equations down so I know where I am, because I'm all over now. So the 3 equations, here's the first one. Negative 132 equals 7v1 minus 4v2 minus 3v3. So if I take this one, v3, and replace it with what? Minus 3 times, in place of v3, I'm going to put what? v2 plus 25. So you'll have what? 7v1 minus 4v2. Oh, not 4. What's 4 and 3? Is that 7? when you collect like terms. And this is negative 75. Bring it to the side, becomes a plus. 75 minus 132, negative 57. The second equation. That was the second equation. It doesn't have V3 in it, so I'm okay. Because I'm replacing V3. All I'm doing, I'm taking V3 and setting equal to what? V2 plus 25. Well, there's nothing in this equation about V3. Let me leave it. So that's my second equation. And my third one is this one. Let's replace V3 by this value. In place of V3, I'm going to write V2 plus 25. Negative 5V1 plus 9V2 minus 20I sub 2. What is that going to equal to? 9 times 25, so 500 minus 9 times 25. 275? And now I get three equations by three unknowns. I can solve for I sub 2 and plug it in, use substitution if I want to. And if I did that, I can shrink this to two equations by two unknowns. Instead of all this craziness that you saw there, Supernode says, you know what? Instead of doing all of this, let me draw the circuit one more time and redo the same problem. And by the way, let me just find the answer to this and show you that the answer is not going to change. I'll cheat on my equation here. Simultaneous, three equations by three unknowns. 7, negative 7, and I sub 2 is 0 for this. Negative 57. The other one, negative 1, 4, 3, and 9. The next one, negative 5, 9, negative 20, and 275. Solve that. Oh no, I don't have to hit shift. It says V1 equals 1.857. V2 is equal to 10, and the current I sub 2 is equal to negative 9.714 amps. So if I solve that, these are my answers. Hopefully I simplified correctly. Now what Supernode says, you know what, don't go crazy with this. Let me redraw that. I'll draw the clean circuit I have here. I'm going to redraw this one that you see here. And notice I only got 5 minutes to do it, and that should be adequate. This is 5, 25, and this is 4. And I'm going to leave the same current we assigned. We call this I sub 4, right? We call this I sub 3. We call this voltage V1. Well, the V1 is this. I think we label this as V1. We call this voltage what? V2. Now this voltage is not going to be V3. What is that voltage? It's V2 plus what? 25. The reason you want to do that, because now you have two unknowns, V1 and V2. Guess how many equations by how many unknowns you're going to have? 2. And we're going to treat this as a supernode. A voltage source makes that a supernode. So when we say all the current entering the node, we're talking about this is all one node. So this was I sub 1. This was I sub 5. Anything else? Did I leave anything out? That's it, right? So we look at the voltage source, that's a supernode. KCL at V1, node V1. If you take all the current going into the node, should equal all the current coming out of that node. What is going to this node? Nothing, right? The way I drew it. What's leaving? 8 plus 3 plus I sub 3 plus I sub 4. I sub 3 plus I sub 4 equals what? Negative 11, no change. KCL, the supernode. This, all of it's one node. What is going to it? I sub 3 plus 3 amps plus 25 plus I4 on the top going to it. Anything else? And what's leaving? Plus I5. That's all one node. Clean that. 3 and 25 is what? 28 equals I sub 1 minus I sub 3 minus I sub 4 plus I sub 5. 2 equations by 5 unknowns. Or 4 unknowns. We have 2 no. I sub 1, I sub 3, I sub 4, I sub 5. And again, let's write each of these in terms of the voltage. What is I sub 1? It's this voltage minus this. It's V2 minus nothing. V2, that's V2. What's I sub 3? V1 minus V2 over 3. What's I sub 4? V1 minus all of that, which is V2 plus 25 over what? 4. And what's I sub 5? It's this voltage, which is V2 plus 25 minus 0 over 5. If I do all these substitution right here, I'm going to have 2 equations by 2 unknowns, and I'm done with the problem. All much, much easier. What's I sub 3? V1 minus V2 over 3. What's I sub 4? V1 minus V2 plus 25 over 4. My LCD is what? 12. 12 times 11, is that 132? 4V1 minus 4V2 plus 3v1 minus 3v2 minus 3 times 25, which is what? 75. Again, I'm going through it quickly, so hopefully I don't make a math error. That's 7v1 minus what? 7v2 equals, what's 132? Is that negative 57? I think if I showed you the equation after we spend all the math on it, where was that equation? Look at that. Negative 57 is 7v1 minus 7v2. Now let's do the other equation. 28 equals I sub 1. I sub 1 is what? V2. Minus I sub 3, which is V1 minus V2 over 3. Minus I sub 4. V1 minus V2 plus 25 over 4. Plus I sub 5, which is what? V2 plus 25 over 5. This actually might be worth our time to go slowly with it. LCD is at 60. I think I'm going to go a bit slowly with this one, because otherwise I will make a math error. 60 times 28. 1680 equals 60 V2 minus, this will be what? 20 times V1 minus V2. I'll just go slowly like this. Here's the minus. 60 divided by 4 is what? 15 times V1 minus V2 plus 25. 60 divided by 5, which is what? 12? So 1680 equals 6v2 minus 20v1 minus 20v2. Oh, I made a mistake. What's that? Plus, right? Minus times a minus, that's a plus. See it? Now we're going to be careful with this. Negative 15 v1. This will be a minus times a minus, plus 15 v2 plus 15 times 25. 375 plus 12 v2 plus, what's that, 300? And now collect like terms. Negative 20 v1 minus 15 is negative 35. v2, 20, 35. Is that 41? 41, 53, I think, right? Trying to fly through it. 26, 41, 53 v2. Numbers, what do we have? 375 and 300. Anything else? 675. Clean it. One 680 minus 675. 1005. And now you get how many equations by how many unknowns? 2. So let's see. Plug them in. Simultaneous equations. 2. 7. Negative 7. Negative 57. Next one, negative 35, 53, 1005 equals. Solve it. And that's V1 and V2. Now it doesn't look like my numbers are matching, which means I probably made a mathematical error simplifying somewhere. Double check the math just to make sure. I was trying to fly through it because I know I'm giving a test in 2 minutes and you guys they're getting impatient out there. But that's how Supernode works. If I get a chance next time, I'll do a couple more Supernode, but I'm rushing through it now. I'll make another one on Supernode on the next video. Much easier this way. Huh? Much easier this way.